On this episode of Late Night Writers, our hosts speak with Michael Middleton, who is a ceramic artist out of North Carolina. What's special about Michael's work is that he incorporates real horsehair into many of his pieces of art. You'll learn more about his process, his inspiration, and how else he's involved in the equine world.
So today on Late Night Writers, we are talking with Michael Middleton from the Middleton Clay Project. Michael is out of Chesapeake, Virginia, but he lives in Moyock, North Carolina. Today I'm with my daughter, Mindy, and she is here. She's actually an art teacher, and Jade is with us today also, and we're going to be talking to Michael a little bit about what he does in his interaction with his clay, and also the interaction with equestrians, how that interacts with what you do. So thank you for being here. Thank you. We really appreciate you coming on to our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let me, we kind of always ask our people that we talk to this, but have you been involved with horses yourself then? Or is this just something where you involve what you do, your clay, with horses?
I haven't been, so I kind of tell you, I haven't been involved with horses, but I've been around them. So my neighborhood I live in, it's a rural setting on the way to the Outer Banks, and I'm surrounded by horses. Okay. So I'm familiar with them. I'm very comfortable around them. It's just the evolution of my art has a lot to do with the horses in our area. So.
Yeah, there you go. So, okay. And so how long have you been doing clay? How did you get started in clay?
I've been 15, 16 years now.
Okay.
I started teaching high school, and then I had to teach a ceramic class, and I was okay at teaching ceramics, and like on the wheel, I could throw these little, coffee mugs that probably weighed 500 pounds. But I could throw a little bit, but it just wasn't, for me, I wanted to be better because I didn't want to embarrass myself. So then I have a little bit of an attention problem. The wheel is like a little bit of an instant gratification after 15 years of perfecting it. So, wow. But when I was on the wheel, I just became addicted to it, and then wanted to be a better teacher for my students. So that's really, because I was an art teacher, I was teaching regular, I taught AP art history, drawing and painting. I taught 1 year outside of Houston in Texas, and I learned a tremendous amount of information there. But I fell into ceramics more so out of not wanting to be embarrassed. So.
Oh boy! Wow.
It's a strong motivator.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
And I think Mindy can relate to what you're talking about. She's worked with clay. She's been a high school art teacher and is an elementary art teacher right now. Have you ever done clay or done a medium like that?
Yeah, I did. Well, fun fact about me is that I did a bunch of specifically sculpture classes in college. So I was never really a clay person. My brother actually did a lot of clay and was one of the handful of kids his senior year of college to get a perfect score on the AP art test. But yeah, so I did sculpture, not clay ever. I never did ceramics, but
these girls know quite a bit more than what I do. But so just in going forward, I think Mindy was laughing when you said you threw the clay on and had this heavy coffee cup. I think she's done some of those things herself. Yeah. So but you've perfected it now. You've gone on, and so you started that way. And where did you go from there then with your practice?
So I started, so where I live, so I've progressively gotten better and better teaching ceramics. In the local high school I teach at, it's Hickory High School in Chesapeake, Virginia. I started building a program there, and then I've always really kind of gone back to the roots of art. Like I used to paint a lot, color pencils. So I was very interested in paint, like tempera paint. What is tempera paint? Where does it come from? So I actually kind of got a little bit into the process of making tempera paint. And then color pencils, I was teaching workshops for teachers and really fascinated by like the intricate aspects of it. So ceramic, I'm like, well, clay, like I'm getting clay out of a bag, and then like, well, where's it really come from? And then in North Carolina, North Carolina has a huge ceramic tradition, and it's got some deep roots. Seagrove area, North Carolina is phenomenal. And then you've got Asheville area, North Carolina. So there's phenomenal clay in this area. So I started looking for it, and I did find a bed of clay, wild natural clay, in the Outer Banks area, and it's horrible. Like it's kind of like the leftover stuff that's been brought here from water, and it's an old swamp. But I couldn't do much with it. But that started that whole kind of process of like really kind of really wanting to truly understand ceramics, digging up my clay, processing it, and then that led me to kind of old school traditions, and the whole horsehair thing kind of fell into my lap because of where I live.
Okay. Wow. So it combined together then. So
yes. Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like that with clay other than buying it, or?
I've never used raw clay from the ground. I've found that we have a house near lake, like right on Lake Erie, and we've dug some up there, and I've been very curious to use it that way and see if I could make anything with it.
Oh yeah, and now, I mean, this was, I don't know, this might have been 10 years ago, but now there's so much more information out there about, there's a lot of people that are really, I think there's a big arts and crafts movement in the United States right now. And I think there's, with all the information, I mean, you could go on TikTok and probably find somebody who's processing wild clay, and they'll walk you step by step how to do it. But I mean, 10 years ago, I mean, it was a little bit harder I mean, you could find information, but I think now there's like this really great culture in different areas, like I said, like Seagrove, they have wild natural clays, in Asheville, there's places in Georgia, there's places in Florida. I mean, there's places all over the country where and then you get these little kind of ceramic kind of communities, and a lot of the ceramic artists around here, we all know each other, and it's like a little bit like a little family. But I'm probably only one in this general area that's digging up that I haven't dug up clay in probably about 6 months, but because I've gotten so busy and trying to keep up. But I'm probably the only one in this area that's doing that. And we just don't have the best clay for it. And I'll explain that to you in a little bit, how I kind of stumbled onto these horsehair pots. And it had a lot to do with the clay that's from our area too.
Okay.
Very cool.
So you got into the clay then, and then did you decide once you were trying to get the raw clay, did you decide, hey, I'm going to go with, another type of clay, or what led you further into this then? Just walk us through.
So I was making coffee mugs and making some flower vases and things like that with the clay. And I was constantly having problems. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of iron in this area. I've actually lost pots where the clay becomes so soft, it just melts or it just falls over. And, and those are things that you will run into if you take like a lot of elementary schools will use a low fire clay. And then if that ends up in a mid or a high fire range, it will melt down. So I was having some issues with that. It took me probably about a year to really find like a really good place to fire that clay. And then because of where I live in Currituck County, so I live right over the state line. I teach in Virginia, but the county that I live in has an incredible history, an equine history. It's the birthplace really of the reintroduction of like horses, the Outer Banks in North America from Europe, over 500 years ago. So this clay was causing me a lot of problems. It's full of sand. Okay. So a clay body that's full of sand is really a good clay body to use for Raku. It's called naked Raku, and that's a great clay body to use for that. And I was listening to music. It was in my house. It was on YouTube. And I don't know why I got the commercial because I live in the area, but there was a commercial for the Corolla Wild horses in the Outer Banks, and there was a commercial about going to see them and going to one of the tour companies, and you could get it in one of the vehicles, and they'll take you on the 4-wheel drive area, and you can see the horses. And it just dawned on me that we live in a place where horses were introduced to North America. It's a Native American technique, but our area has roots to the horses being brought over. And our area, Currituck, Caratoke, Moyock, those are all Native American names. Okay. So to kind of honor the horses that originated, in our area, that eventually all over the United States, I just decided I would try to find out how to get horsehair from the wild horses.
Wow.
And I know you can't walk up to them. You're going to jail. So, or you're going to get hurt, or you're going to pay a fine that's real expensive. So I, when people talk about, if you're like giving something and then it comes back to you, and that's really our philosophy at this studio. This studio has the core of this studio. It's high school teachers. So that Middleton Clay project, we have a lot of high school teachers that are part of this building. It's a real small little studio, but we are all teacher focused here and like teaching you the right way to do things. Mm-hmm. I had a teacher in the county that I live in approach me. She's a teacher now. Back then she was, I don't know if she student teaching or maybe it was her first year teaching, but she was taking students on a trip to New York, and they were drama students. So she reached out to me and wanted to know if I would donate a pot for their silent auction for a fundraiser. And it was at a little shout out, Sanctuary Vineyards in our county. That's a great place to go. Tourists go there all the time. It's a great place to stop on the way to the Outer Banks. So she had a little event. And of course, I'm like, well, sure, I'll donate a pot. And so I donated a vase. While I was there, I had this whole thing working in my head. How do I find out who takes care of the horses? Because I gave that pot to that lady, I got the answer. I mean, because I talked to a lady who's part of the county. She said, talk to Meg Puckett. Okay. And then I got her information, and I went and saw her, I think a week later, and she gave me some horsehair from a horse named Romer, who had already passed, but Romer was a real historical horse in the Outer Banks.
Wow.
And then I think I've been rolling ever since.
My goodness. Wow. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I would never think of doing anything like that. You guys probably are more creative than I am, but that's pretty interesting that you figured that out or found out how to do that. I wouldn't even think of it. So do you want to ask, first of all, before we go any further, about like the kiln or anything? Do you have, I don't know about kilns,
Sure.
as to how you fire or whatever. I don't know
if there's anything you can share or would like to share about your firing process.
Yeah, so there's there's different types of firing. So in this studio itself, this studio is in Chesapeake, and we have wheel thrown classes, and I teach one class, and I have a lady, Molly McCraw. I think she's one of the better wheel throwers in the whole area, and one of the better teachers too. She teaches in here. We have electric kilns. So what I'll do is I'll set the pot right now, because trying to keep up with inventory, I'm actually using a clay that's half porcelain, but I went to the Outer Banks and I screened sand from the Outer Banks, and I screened it down to 100 mesh screen, so it's real fine. And we actually wedged that into the clay, and so it still has a piece of the connection to our area. So we'll set them in an electric kiln. We'll fire them real low. So I've got one. I don't know. Can you guys see that pot?
Yes.
Beautiful.
So
beautiful.
What we'll end up doing is we'll coating these pots white, and then we'll set it in an electric kiln. It's, I would say, 1800 degrees in that range. So this is still porous. It's just a decorative technique. And then a friend of mine, Jeff Winstead, who I also teach with at Hickory, he helps me fire. We load up all the pots after we fire them one time in an electric kiln. Then we take them to my property. I live on almost 5 acres. And I have a little shelter, and I have a gas kiln there. So we'll place these pots in a gas kiln, because you need an electric kiln. I want to reach 1200 degrees, but I want to get there quickly. And an electric kiln, there's too much draw. Like if I were to open up the lid, the temp's going to drop real bad, and it's going to take a while to rise back up. But we put them in a gas kiln, and it used to take so long to fire these. We would pull them out and then cut the kiln off and then reload it. And now we pull them out and the kiln's 800, 900 degrees, and we drop another pot right into it. And we just keep going because we've gotten so used to what we're doing and so comfortable with it. But we'll pull these pots out around 1100 degrees. We'll touch the surface. So I'll show you right here. I've got, the Kerala Wild Horse Fund gives me these cute little bags of horsehair.
Okay.
I mean, that looks kind of crazy, but and then it'll have a name on the bag. So we will document each pot. So each pot has a name on the bottom of it. And then we keep track. We try to only use 1 or 2 horses at a time. So we stay, we don't want to mix up. And then we put them in the gas kiln. If it hits around 1200 degrees, we have these tongs. We pull them out of the kiln, and we only have a small window, maybe about a minute or so, and we touch that surface. So as soon as the hair touches that, as soon as it touches that surface, it burns away, and then it leaves these great patterns.
Wow.
And my friend Jeff, he helped me build. We have a wood kiln that we fired. We hit 2400 degrees in the wood kiln, but we don't fire these in the wood kiln. So we're pretty familiar with lots of different types of kilns and the processes, and each kiln has its advantage and disadvantage. The wood kiln, it was 3 days to fire that, and that was not fun. That's not, I love it. I love the surface, but that's a pretty brutal firing for sure.
This podcast is brought to you by Ram Fence and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. Ram is family-owned and operated and been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.
So that's your Raku process that you were just showing us?
Yes.
The one?
Yes.
Yep.
So we'll, we take, seeing if I had a pot. So this is coated on the bottom. You can't see the clay body, but this has a white coating on the entire pot. And then you just take a little rag and you shine it, and it gives this beautiful surface. So I think these pots really are, there's something on this pot from different places around the world. This white coating, the Greeks were famous for doing it. It's called terra sigillata. It means sealed earth. Okay. And the Greeks were famous. If you go to a museum and you look at the Greek pots, they're going to have a little bit of shine on them. And that shine is really just, it's clay. It's a clay body, but it's the finest particles of clay. And when you take a little tissue, a little rag, and just rub the surface, it polishes it up. And that gives you that nice contrast between the black and the white.
So
and then the Native American Navajo technique, the story with that was a beautiful woman. She had the beautiful black hair. She pulled a ceramic piece out of a fire. The wind caught her hair, and it grazed the ceramic piece and left a beautiful pattern. And then that started the tradition of burning hair into the surface. And then and we honor horses, like the wild horses here. I have done auction pots for Claiborne Farms. I've given them 2 pots. I have had the opportunity to make a pot for Secretariat's last female offspring.
Wow.
John Henry, the famous racehorse. Also Cigar, famous race. Lava Man. So I've had a pretty good opportunity to make some pots for history, really.
I'd say
to hold that horsehair from some of those horses is like, even though I didn't grow up around horses, I'm in awe of that. That I've had hair burned into the surface, and we create these pots, and it's Cigar and John Henry. I mean, those are and then to hold that horsehair from Secretariat's last female offspring, she just passed away. To hold that horsehair, knowing that it's just one connection to one of the greatest horses that ever lived, is is absolutely humiliating. It's actually humbling, and it's like I'm in awe of it. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Have you ever done anything like that with anything where you burnt it on afterwards?
I've done primitive firing, and I did do Raku in college.
Yeah.
But not using the, like hair or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I understand your process, and
so
I
you
think it's
probably did
incredible.
like the like a lot, like pulling out the pots and then like put it in a trash can and sealing that. That's a lot of fun too. That's a whole lot of fun. So, and my long-term goal here is I'm hoping in the next few years that this studio's real successful, and I would like to have maybe another one if I can manage that, because I'm getting ready to retire. I have 4 years left to teach. That I do want to open up a building on the way to the Outer Banks. And we have a website, middletonclayproject.com, and you can order pots. But I really want to be on that main road just before the bridge to the Outer Banks, and then people can stop in, and then we can do Raku, like I could do workshops, because like people are, doing Raku, it's like, it's addictive. It's like it's instant gratification. It's so much fun. Yeah. But right now, in the location here doesn't allow me to do that type, because it is the lady who I rent from. I love her. I think she would not appreciate me starting fires in the parking lot of my studio. So
yes,
but
I did
technique is so much fun. It is so much fun.
Primitive firing when I taught my high school students, and they allowed me to do it outside of my classroom. So, but that you have to be very careful with.
Oh yeah, you're pretty fortunate. I may do that a couple times before I retire outside, and I probably would just ask forgiveness, I guess.
Yeah, you've got tenure, right?
Right.
So,
there you go.
With 4 years left to teach, I don't think they care anyways.
Right.
They just like, I'm not a problem, and our kids, I've got some great wheel throwers too at school.
Oh, that's fun.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So this technique, I'm sorry, because I don't know too much about it. You guys will probably laugh at me, but you take it out, it's hot, and then you have this horsehair from these famous horses, and you lay it on the pot. Is that what you do? And it just
you take one little, like if I take a strand.
Yeah, do you take a strand?
And then as soon as so the pot is 1100
just
degrees.
A strand, even.
And the pot is fired. These pots are fired to be. Here's another one. Like these pots are fired.
Oh, it's
beautiful.
Pretty.
They're fired. Very low, and they're porous.
So pretty.
So this is actually the carbon impression of the hair.
Okay.
But when you touch the surface, it soaks the carbon in from the hair, and it burns everything else away.
Unreal.
So, but the pot has to be fired at it's called a bisque temperature. Right. So it's set, but it's like, this won't hold water. Some people do that and they put things in here, but I don't really recommend that, because these are softer. And then if you put weight in here, water's heavy. And I think you would risk losing a pot. Some people do this and they drink out of it. I don't, putting a chemical inside to seal something and you're drinking out of it, that doesn't sound like something I'd want to do.
Yeah, right.
But this is the carbon impression. If you go on, so the Kerala Wild Horse Fund, like we document different horses, and I donate a percentage of my sales to them. They sell my pots in their museum store that's in Kerala in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And we do raffles twice a year. So if anybody, you go follow the Kerala Wild Horse Fund, they do amazing work. And those two raffles are huge. I mean, at $5 a ticket, and I do the work, they raffle it off, and then they tell me where to ship it, and they don't have to deal with it because they have enough to do already. They don't need to worry about trying to package up and ship pots. But so if you go on the Kerala Facebook page, if you scroll back to late April, then they actually have a video that they posted of mine, and it's only about an 8-second video or so, but you can actually see You can see the process where it's a horse named Amadeo Jr.
Okay.
who they had to take off the beach a year and a half ago. He actually, if I'm not mistaken, he got a hold of an apple, and the horses in the Outer Banks can't eat like food like other horses can. Their systems, they're not accustomed to it.
Wow.
They eat things like sea oats that other horses would probably just die before they would eat that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So they have to be, when they're rescued, they have to be acclimated to a different life. But Amadeo Jr. was pulled off the beach. I've made some pots with him. So if you go on the Corolla Facebook page, go back to around late April, you will actually see the whole process, and it breaks it. It makes more sense to actually see it, you know?
Yeah. And these are Mustangs, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong?
They call them,
wild horses.
if I'm not mistaken, they are bankers, and like it's its own breed now.
Yeah.
And there's still a few left that are like, Kitty Hawk is a horse that was rescued. And if I'm not mistaken, she's still 100% Spanish Mustang.
Wow.
And so they're a mix too, because the Outer Banks, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, but
no,
you think the beach. Yeah. And it's not the Outer Banks on Netflix. That is like Charleston area. It is not like, that's a beautiful place, but the Outer Banks of North Carolina, it's real flat, wide open. It's a long stretch of beach. But the Outer Banks has a long
Uh-huh.
history of agriculture. Cattle and horses and livestock would be moved up and down the beach. And a lot of people had livestock, and there were no fence laws. Wow. So there are other horses that have bred, more domesticated horses in the past that have bred with some of the wild horses. Okay. There is actually, you guys need to look him up. He is historical. He is, I want to say he's got to be close to 30. His name is Raymond. Okay. So please look Raymond up. He's at the rescue farm on the mainland of Currituck County. Currituck County it has the mainland part, and then it has Corolla and Corova. Okay. But Raymond goes back to the agricultural past. In the 90s, there was a man who owned a lot of property in the northern part of the Outer Banks, and he had livestock. And back then, it was so hard to get. It's still hard to get there today because you have to go all the way down and then go just about an hour all the way back up. But back then, it was so hard to get to that area. And then he had livestock. They just wandered around. His donkey actually bred with a wild horse and created the mule, Raymond. And Raymond roamed the beach, and he thought he was this beautiful Mustang, and he had his own harem. And, of course, he's sterile, but he didn't know that. And he is, like the sitcom, Everybody Loves Raymond. I mean, he's just like he is, when people go to the rescue farm, they want to see Raymond because he's just such an amazing link to the past of the Outer Banks.
How long does it take if somebody wants to send you something, some horsehair or whatever hair? How long does it generally take you to do a pot then for them?
It would take, like if I had to do it, I mean, we probably could turn a pot around in about 5 days, but usually, we get a pot out in about 3 to 4 weeks. I think my website says like 6 to 8, but you just
plan 6 to 8.
Like if somebody hits me up close to Christmas time, I mean, I'm going to be incredidly busy, but I can. So the whole thing is the drying time. Yeah. So you need to give yourself a week to dry the pot. You don't necessarily need that, but it's safe to have about a week to dry the pot. Okay. And then I have to we've got to coat it, fire it, and then it needs to be fired again on my property. And then it needs to be washed, dried, clear coated. So there's several steps involved. So 2.5 to 3 weeks is probably about average for us to get a pot. Like somebody would ship, so you would just ship hair in a little bag like this with the name. And then we stamp, let's see. like we stamp, there's I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but
Little
it
bit.
says Sunshine.
Yes.
So we stamp the name of the horse on the bottom.
Nice.
So it's a custom pot, especially if like somebody has a dog, we're making a little ornament for their dog and their dog's name is Grizzly. So I don't have a lot of pots lying around with Grizzly on the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's a custom piece. And so, by the time we make the pot, wait for it to trim and all that, but I'd say 3-week turnaround. So
Okay.
I kind of bouncing off of that. I was on your website, and you do have pots with Raymond, right?
yes.
Okay, yeah. So then that leads me to my question. Have you found there's a difference between the banker horses, this mule, the famous horses in history that you've gotten to work with? How it reacts?
That is like a phenomenal question. Raymond's hair is terrible. It's terrible.
Oh, wow.
Because it's so short. Usually the best, mane or the tail, the longer the hair, the better. Because a longer piece of hair, when it hits the pot, it draws in more.
Yeah, it kind of curls.
And it'll give you that kind of squiggle effect, and it'll draw in more. But Raymond's hair is so it's stringy. It's just nasty. It's not good. But it's Raymond and it's historical.
And everyone wants a pot.
Maybe the patterns aren't as pretty, but it's Raymond. So it's he wouldn't care. I don't think,
Exactly.
But we do that same technique. Like this is a pot. Someone lost their dog. So this is dog hair, but I'll show you the difference. Like this is a little pot that we made, and you can see that it's almost these little kind of a splotchy area.
Right.
You can see a little bit of definition here, but this is a really long-haired dog. So, but then look at the difference between more of an alpha type horse see the really beautiful lines.
Sure.
Yeah, it looks coarse.
And we've even
the hair
noticed
looks
within
like
the
it would
horses
be coarse.
that some of the horses that are the most dominant, they have the better hair that we use for the pot. So that was a great question. Yeah.
I wonder if that's because the horse that's more dominant, especially in a wild setting, but even in a domestic setting, they're getting more nutrition because, they're able to bully others outside, away from the food. So then their hair is, more luscious.
Survival
and
of the fittest.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be. Because one of our favorite horses, Betty, she's got this. So she's on the rescue farm, and she has this it's long, black, curly. It's got this waviness to it. And then you can see her at the rescue farm, and the wind blows, and you could just she just knows she's beautiful. I mean, and that hair is there was a time when we had 100 Betty pots and 5 pots of other horses, and we didn't realize it. We just kept going to the same horse because the hair was so much better than a lot of the other horses. So, but that we've noticed a difference, and we do these little ornaments with cat hair, and so some of the some animals that their hair is so soft, you almost have to paint it on the surface. But I love the really long, that's why I had this horse. This hair right here is just long. It's beautiful to touch that surface. It's real strong, and you get that great burn into the surface.
Well, your pots are so pretty. The ones behind you, I see some up above. Are those some others as well, or what is behind you too? Because those are beautiful
So what's behind me? I have different pots. These are different techniques, and more. Some of them are experimental. Some of it I do some kind of abstract stuff too.
Okay.
And then on this side is so I don't want to mess it up too much, but you can see there's a whole bunch of pots.
Oh goodness, how pretty! They're just gorgeous, beautiful.
So that's what I'm known for in the area, and this is I have 8 wheels on the other side of this room, and it's about a little over 1,000 square feet, and we have areas of student work, and a couple of kilns on this side over here, and then we have one display area. It just allows me to put pots up there, and that really helps us because we ship pots. I think we sold something is going to Greenville, North Carolina this morning, and we've shipped everywhere. I think Japan, Korea, the Netherlands, England, Trying to think, Germany. I have a pot. Last year, it went from the Outer Banks area because I dropped it off at the Moyock post office. Shout out to them. They're amazing. I don't go there much anymore, but back in the day, they were so careful with my work. They knew what it was. They're the nicest people. So that pot went from literally a couple miles from the ocean on the East Coast, and it went all the way to San Diego, and that house was like 5 blocks from the Pacific Ocean. I just thought that was pretty funny that that pot is literally going from one coast to the next. But with our website, we ship like every Oregon. I think we did a raffle for the Corolla Wild Horse Fund, and that pot, the winner of that raffle was a person in Oregon, the state of Oregon. So so we'll send anything anywhere. So
I'm looking behind you, and I see like on the top shelf you have the pots that have more brown on them. Oh,
so I got this right here. So do you see this kind of color?
Yes,
that's pretty.
Yes.
Okay, so these are actually the same thing. See the orange on here? The orange is brown, and that's pink, right? You get, can y'all tell that's kind of pinkish?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, it's actually the same chemical.
Okay.
It just depends on how you fire it.
Yep.
So
the temperature.
So I coat this whole pot. I'll probably be dead at like 71. I'm not gonna lie. I wear a respirator, I wear a mask and stuff, but
all the oil painters went crazy too. So
anybody with art stuff, it's like it's kind of sketchy stuff. But we're real careful. But that pink is ferric chloride, and we wrap this with aluminum foil. Wow. So we put this in a kiln, and this is a different cut. This is called a sagger fire. Sagger is basically one pot at a time, and it's wrapped in a casing. So the idea behind this is to keep the fumes and to kind of create a reduction atmosphere and to keep it inside of the aluminum foil. Yeah. And if you fire this till the aluminum foil gets soft, which is about 1450, that's the melting point of aluminum, then you'll get pink. So then we'll let the pots cool overnight, and then my friend Jeff will come over, and then we'll do the horsehair part separate. So there's more to this.
Sure.
Wow.
But this pot has the orange, that's the ferric chloride. Mm-hmm. We spray that on and then just immediately stick it in the kiln. Okay. And then we fire it normal. When you do that, it turns this nice kind of toasty color, this like orangish, brownish color. Mm-hmm. And so it's the same chemical. It just depends on one's reduction with no oxygen, and then one is just applied directly on it and stuck in the kiln. So it's great to have one material and get different looks to
results.
It. And I've got some blue we're working on too. I need to get through school. We've got, what do we have? I don't know, 4 more weeks. I'm losing track of time, but we get out of school early June, and then I'm going to try to kind of hone in on blue. But blue, that's fun. Beautiful blue color, but you have it's a higher temp, and you can only do a couple of those pots at a time. And we could stack them and everything, but the blue you can't do that. So that's our next color. So we got the white, the orange. Kind of the pinks.
That will be really interesting.
You can also put, the white that's on here too, you can put different colors. Like I could put blue in that white, and I could brush a coat of blue on it. So there's a lot of options. And we have Clay Works. It's in Richmond. If you got Richmond listeners and you want to get into clay, Scott Campbell at Clay Works in Richmond, he'll walk you through anything you need. He is amazing. And Clay Works in Richmond is just an outstanding place. So I'm about 2 hours from a supply. It's a warehouse basically. And so it's worth it for me. I can get any kind of material I want, and if they don't have it, they can get it for me. So that opens a lot of doors up for me too, to have options and things.
Do you have any questions, Mindy, that, being in the art itself, that you would want to ask?
I just enjoy hearing about your process and your technique. Well,
thank you. Yeah,
so interesting.
So hopefully in a few years I'll be on this main road, and
Oh, that would be great.
This place is thriving, and then hopefully the people coming to visit our area, I'll have a really accessible place for them to like it, because the goal is for them to not have to. You want to go to the beach, you want to go to the beach. Like you just we take it for granted because like this whole area, we're 30 minutes to an hour from great beaches. But when you're not from here, you want to get to the beach and to be on that main road. You could make a little pit stop for 30, 40 minutes, but it's on the road. It's
Great
not,
location.
you don't have to go down 5 miles down a road, turn left at the barn and all that kind of stuff. And it'll be like really accessible.
Nice.
So that's our long-term goal here, and to continue to support the Corolla Wild Horse Fund. They just do amazing work, and I have a great relationship with Meg Puckett and Nora. The two of them take care of the horses, and if you guys come to our area on Wednesdays during the summer, you can actually go to the rescue farm. If the weather permits, every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The rescue farm is off of Betsy Dowdy, and the road's name is Betsy Dowdy, and it's easy to find. So if anybody comes to the area, definitely look up the Corolla Wild Horse Fund, and definitely look up the rescue farm, and you can see Raymond, and you can meet these amazing people who take care of these animals. And there are people that live on the 4-wheel drive area, and they watch and patrol and really, really fight for these horses because they're historical. They're very small numbers.
Yes.
There's a little over 100 that are actually in the wild, and probably 30-ish or so, maybe more, that are actually at the rescue farm, or they've been rescued by other people. And so if you guys come to the area, just know you don't feed them. Don't try to touch them. Keep 50 feet away. Right. And if you do get too close, the locals will get you in that area. They are they're very passionate, and they really protect that area, and rightfully so. And it keeps you from getting hurt, and they're just a treasure we live in an area, and we take it for granted, where I can get in my car in an hour, and from here, my studio, a little over an hour, I could be on a 4-wheel drive area looking at wild horses walking along the beach, if the weather permits. So because that is a trick too. So if you guys come to our area yesterday, if you have a westerly wind, that's the time to see the horses on the beach, because that pushes them to the beach, because the bugs start biting, and then you get those great photos. I'm sure you guys have probably, if you've seen those great photos of the horses on the beach, that is like a phenomenal time to go see them. So, and if you guys come to this area, definitely look us up, check us out for sure.
We would. If we come by there, we will. And I have one last question in this segment. Is there advice or anything you'd like to tell people? Because, the equestrian world is so diversified, and you're doing something in it in a creative way for people who would be doing like an art or pottery. Is there any advice or just something that you say to people? Because sometimes it can be kind of like, do I keep on doing this, or what advice would you give to somebody that wants to do something?
I think if you're an artist working somewhere, whether it not just so with my art, I have to make a connection. I'm just going to paint a pretty picture. So an example would be, so the approach I take with my art and how I relate it to the horses was I need to give to, I need to give, and then I need to, reach out and try to do what I can to help raise some money. So I think if you're in an area like rescue farms, if you're really passionate about horses, I think that I'm sure there's plenty of rescue farms throughout the country that you could reach out to, that you could even if you just go once a week and maybe give people who are running the place a break, and just give them a break. And then if you're an artist and you're looking for an avenue, not just so my focus is horses, because I have the naked Raku stuff, and I have another avenue of my art, but that's completely different. That's more personal. And, but a lighthouse. You want to paint a picture of a lighthouse. This is not just a horse question. This is like an art question and how to be successful, and paint a picture of a lighthouse, make prints. And then if it's a lighthouse that needs like funding to maintain it, maybe you donate a percentage of that to the actual foundation or the group that's taking care of the lighthouse, or so finding a way to kind of give to, and I think it just comes back to you tremendously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the focus of a lot of what I do. So
I agree.
And
I love your
I will
approach.
be July 6th.
Yeah.
I'll be at Kentucky Horse Park.
Okay.
So July 6th, I'm doing a demo, and I've got to set up a kiln right now because I'm about 9.5 hours away, but we're going to get a little small mini kiln. And we're actually going to do the whole process at Kentucky Horse Park, right around the Lexington, Kentucky area. And that'll be July 6th. So if anybody's looking for something to do the 4th of July, and any of your listeners out there, if they're close by, just July 6th, just come on by. I don't have the time set yet, but I think you could go to Kentucky Horse Park and make a whole day of it anyways. I mean, that's an incredible place.
Okay, well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for all that good information. We'll just be taking a short break, and when we get back, we'll enter our next segment, Canter Banter.
Do you have horses and live the equestrian lifestyle? Be sure to check out our blog at yourhorsefarm.com. Yourhorsefarm.com is a great equine online resource, so be sure to share with all the horse lovers in your life. And remember, laugh much and ride often.
And we're back. So now we're going to enter a segment of Canter Banter. And Michael, do you have a story you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so as we discussed before, when I was going through the whole process of finding wild clay and trying to learn how to use it, we have a neighborhood horse. There's a property that I would dig up clay. It's about a half a mile from me, a 10-acre lot. And they have a horse. His name is Geronimo, and he's a character. And my buddy Corey, he's an amazing guy, and like the whole neighborhood loves him. And he takes care of this horse, Geronimo. Well, I would drive up onto the property, and I forgot I had food. There was some fruit in a bag. It was summertime. It was hot. My windows were down. And so when I got back to my car, Geronimo's whole entire head was in my car and helping himself to everything he could get a hold of. So I learned from that point on that I kept my windows rolled up, and I respected Geronimo a little more because he is about the size. Was about the size of my vehicle.
Oh my goodness! There you go. That's a good tip
cute.
And good things to remember. So
Yes.
that's cute.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to talk to us about what you do, and it's amazing. Your clay pots are just absolutely beautiful. What you do with the horses is such a connection to the equestrians. So thank you for sharing the time, and I know we'll talk to you again and see you again probably sometime. So thank you very much.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me, and hopefully I'll see some people at Kentucky Horse Park July 6th. And if anybody has any questions, or we do custom pots too for people, you can go on my website. And if you have you don't have to lose a horse to do that. I have people that they just want a custom pot because you know that like your horse. If you have a horse, your dog, I mean, that's your family,
animal.
you know. So
are.
I mean, that's just a part of a little piece of them, you know. Has your soul and your heart. And so we do a lot of pots for a lot of people, and we ship those all over the country. And it's a great way to just to honor like a pet and honor, you love them. We all know that. So you guys just check us out online for sure.
Thank you so much. It's
Thanks
wonderful.
so much.
Thanks for joining us today.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you guys.
Okay.
Yep, you too.
We hope you enjoyed our podcast and encourage you to share with all of your equestrian family and friends. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, as well as our YouTube channel, and stay up to date on all of our shows. Do you have a topic to discuss or a guest recommendation for our hosts? Email us at podcast@ramfence.com.